Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, we're going to be comparing a 2021 Ram 1500 Laramie with a sport package, a 2021 Ford F-150 Lariat with a sport package, and then finally a 2021 Chevy 1500 RST, which is basically their sport package. But first and foremost, a huge shout out and thank you to the Dodge Ram here in Provo, the Ford here in Provo, and the Chevy here in Provo for providing me with all three trucks. All of these dealerships are all next to each other. You've got the Dodge store right there, you have the Ford store right there, and then you have the Chevy store right here. So if you are comparing all three brands, this is the place to do it. So come visit these guys, and also their inventories are going to be in the link below. Let's get into the comparison. Let's talk about visibility before we set off here in the F-150 Lariat. We've got the visibility over the hood, which is really solid. There's your visibility through both mirrors. They do have blind spot monitoring, and again, you got your mirror extender. I don't know, I just like that feature. I know I talk about it too much, but anyways, there's your visibility through the other mirror, and then all throughout the rear. Visibility in this truck is super solid, and that all being said, let's set off. So we are initially setting off here in the F-150 with the FX4 package and the long bed. I'm actually really excited to drive this truck because I want to see how the long bed drives, and then also with the FX4 package, I want to see how that kind of performs differently. With the longer bed, the thing I am noticing is when you're just on the road, it's a little bit smoother than the regular F-150, but going over bumps, I think it's because the truck is longer. I noticed that they upset the truck a little bit more on the rear end than they do on the shorter bed, so definitely take that into consideration. In terms of handling, I'm not sure if I can really perceive a handling difference. Of course, the glove box fell open because, you know what, guys, I never close things properly, but yeah, I can't really perceive a handling difference between this and the shorter bed. They really do feel about the same. The steering is just as nice on this truck. I definitely love the steering on the new F-150. That and Ram, I'd have a hard choice at picking which steering rack I like better, but this one definitely feels really good for a truck. It almost feels better than my Raptor in some respects from a steering perspective. Yes, I know I'm low on fuel, but we got to go in sport mode. Yeah. Keeps like, I love how it keeps warning me. It's like, hey, are you sure that you want to accelerate, because you're gonna run out of gas. I just think that's so, I don't know, that stuff like that is funny to me. Well, let's actually get up and get our acceleration here with the, well, just now we can get our acceleration. Gosh, it's so quick. So I actually drove my Raptor down here today, and that means that I get like a direct comparison, like acceleration wise, from my Raptor to this. Now, the one thing that I will say is this definitely, I feel like it puts down the power a little bit better than my Raptor does, just down to the ground. I feel like they've done a lot of stuff with the traction to make it so that this puts down power better. But other than that, like the actual acceleration, it's not as loud, so the Raptor feels quicker because it's louder, if that makes sense, but they're really close now. Like, they're definitely, when they release the new Raptor, they're gonna have to increase the power quite a bit so that it feels quite a bit faster than the regular F-150, because this feels pretty much as quick as the current Raptor. I don't know what these people are doing, so I'm just gonna sit here and act like nothing's happening. But let's get into summing things up with this new F-150 with the long bed, with the FX4 package, and with the Lariat package. So from an exterior appearance perspective, I love the body painted bumpers. I'm not a huge fan of the chrome. So this exterior appearance is definitely something that I prefer. And then from an interior perspective, Ford's definitely brought up their interiors a massive amount. And here's the deal is, you know, even if things don't necessarily have like nice soft touch on them where they feel really nice to touch, they still look really nice. And that's something that Ford's just done a really good job with, is just making the interior look really well put together. And then the stuff that you actually do touch on a regular basis is really nice surfaces. Like the steering wheel is nice, the armrest is nice, the center console where you're gonna rest your arm, that's nice. All that kind of stuff that you're actually gonna be touching is really nice to the touch. So they've just done a really good job with kind of changing things up on this truck from that perspective. And then the power and the acceleration is crazy, especially at 4,500 feet elevation. It just has so much power and torque, and I really don't feel like I need any more. And like I said, I need to get a side-by-side comparison with this and my Raptor so I can do like a drag race, because I have a feeling that this might win in a drag race. That would be kind of fun. Let me know if you guys want to see that. But yeah, the F-150 Lariat's absolutely crazy, and obviously we got to see how it compares against the Ram and the Chevy. We'll talk about visibility here before we set off with the Ram. Visibility over the hood, you can see, is actually really solid. And then there's your visibility through both mirrors. Remember, they do have blind spot monitoring. And then here's all throughout the rest of the rear of the Ram. So in general, visibility is pretty good in this truck. And that all being said, dial shifter. Well, let's set off. We're initially setting off here in the Ram 1500 Laramie, and let's talk about the road noise and the ride quality, which I expect this one to probably ride the smoothest out of the three, just because it doesn't have any sort of off-road package or off-road tires. It's kind of, you know, built up for street use, whereas the other two have a little bit of off-road capability. Geez, those 392 gears are a little bit crazy. So getting up and going definitely has a nice little punch off the line with the 392 gears. And yeah, just as I kind of expected, let's go over a couple of these little manholes. Yeah, definitely doesn't upset the truck nearly as much as the other two. The other two trucks kind of go over the place, whereas this truck definitely a lot smoother over that stuff. So definitely take that into account. Brakes are really nice. See how it handles. The F-150 did have the long bed, so that one kind of drove a little bit different. Yeah, I can't really perceive a size difference though. They both feel about the same size, even though that F-150 does have the longer sized bed. But yeah, it still drives really nice. This definitely kind of feels the most luxury out of the three. And again, I kind of equate that to the fact that this one doesn't have an off-road package. And hopefully, oh no, never mind. My dreams are crushed. I was gonna say, hopefully we can make it before that light turns red, because, well, it's a Saturday in Provo, and my chance of survival now is next to nothing. Just kidding. Well, now let's get our acceleration here with the Laramie. Hemi power. So from an acceleration standpoint, really strong. I love the 392 gears. Definitely gives it a nice little punch off the line with that gearing. That being said though, I mean, the Ford does feel a little bit quicker. This does feel quicker than the Chevy, so it's kind of like right in between the two. I mean, the power figures suggest that, but also we're at 4,500 feet elevation here, and so the turbocharged engine is definitely going to be the strongest compared to the two naturally aspirated engines. But I mean, I wouldn't say this is a slouch. It's definitely, it's a good amount of power. I love the sound. The Hemi sounds really nice. So if you're looking for sound quality, then this is definitely going to be the engine to go with from a sound perspective. And that'll actually get me into summing things up here with the Laramie. So this, again, is kind of more on the luxury side, whereas the other two are kind of a little bit sportier with the driving, because they've got those off-road packages. Jeez, Provo people. Anyways, so again, on the luxury side of things, and so we've got the nice ride quality, really nice interior. And from the exterior styling perspective, I think the sport package looks good. I definitely prefer the night package because I like when everything's all blacked out, but the sport package is still a really good looking truck. And so as an overall package, I feel like it's a really solid value. And in terms of like comparing to the other two from a driving perspective, again, in the middle from an acceleration perspective, and doesn't drive big or anything like that. So yeah, if you're looking for like a luxury truck, then Ram is really nice right now. Let's talk about visibility before we set off here in the Chevy. So you guys can see visibility of the hood is pretty solid, and then you get your visibility through both of the mirrors with the Chevy, and then here's all throughout the rest of the rear. So from a visibility perspective, the Chevy is really solid. And that all being said, well, let's set off. So we are initially setting off here in the Chevy 1500 RST, and first and foremost, let's talk about the road noise and the ride quality. So kind of like what I guessed at the beginning of the video, this and the Ford are going to ride a little bit rougher because they both have the off-road packages. Now, if I were to kind of rate them basically from roughest to smoothest, the Chevy is a little bit on the rougher side. The Ford's in between, then the Ram was the smoothest out of these three trucks. That being said, though, they're all exceptionally smooth. Like, you could consider any of these pretty much luxury vehicles at this point in terms of the ride quality. Like, they all ride really smooth. Me driving them back to back to back, that's the only way I can perceive the difference. But if you didn't drive them back to back, then you would not be able to tell which one, you'd not be able to tell the difference between them, basically. Now, actually getting up and going on the road, torque is really good. On the 8-speed's pretty quick. Let's see how... Yeah, so it's just like the Ford. That's pretty interesting. So the Ram didn't really get upset at all, but the Ford and the Chevy, when you go over stuff, that wasn't as much. But yeah, the Ford and the Chevy just got upset a little bit more than the Ram, which is pretty interesting. It seems like the Ram just a little bit more composed. But again, these obviously have the off-road packages, so that does kind of change things a little bit on road. Steering's really good. Definitely doesn't feel big. I mean, all these trucks, if you were blindfolded and you drove them back to back, you would not be able to actually tell the size difference between the trucks. You would feel that they all pretty much feel the same. Now, you would be able to perceive a steering difference. So the Chevy's definitely the heaviest steering rack. The Ford, I would say, is the most direct, and the Ram is kind of like in between both of them. Pretty direct, but then it's also really light as well. So from a steering perspective, though, I definitely like this. It has kind of like a sportier feel because of the weightedness. Now, I am going to pop it over into the sport mode for our acceleration here, and well, we've got to wait for infamous Provo traffic here, which takes forever sometimes. There we go. That was pretty quick for an opening, but let's get our full-blown acceleration now. Yeah, pretty good there in the sport mode. The one thing that I will say, and I kind of said this already in today's video earlier, geez, it takes forever to switch. There we go. Those drive modes, that's interesting. But anyways, the Ram's definitely in between. This Chevy with the 5.3 is the slowest. However, you can get a 6.2 in the RST. And so I would recommend, if you've got the money, I would go for the 6.2. The fuel economy is about the same as the 5.3. You get the 10-speed automatic with the 6.2. And the acceleration is just significantly better with that 6.2. It's stronger than the Ram, and it's pretty close to the Ford. Like, they're really, really close acceleration wise. So that would definitely be the engine to get with the Chevy. But let's get into summing things up. So again, like I said, from a ride quality perspective, they're all pretty close. The Ram was the smoothest out of all three. The Chevy, though, is definitely no slouch. And then in terms of the road noise, they're all about the same. They're all really well insulated cabins. Acceleration, this with the 5.3 lacks a little bit, but you can get a 6.2 in it. So I'm not going to completely write off the Chevy because, again, you can get the 6.2. And then from an interior perspective, if you guys noticed, all of them have pretty similar tech. You look at all the different trucks and they're all pretty similar. The Ford had a little bit more, but the Ford was also the most expensive out of the three trucks. And so it just kind of depends on if the stuff that the Ford has is really worth the extra money to you. And so with that being said, with the Chevy, I really like how this rides. Again, like I said, this 5.3 isn't my preferred engine, but this is a really reliable engine. And so it's kind of, I don't know, it's up in the air, but that 6.2 is just as reliable as this 5.3. So that's the only thing is, if you're looking at the Chevy, if you can afford the extra that the 6.2 costs, I would recommend going with it. That's just me, though. And again, that is going to sum things up for today's video, comparing a 2021 Ram 1500 Laramie Sport to a 2021 Ford F-150 Lariat Sport, and then to a 2021 Chevy 1500 RST. And again, a huge shout out and thank you to the Dodge Ram here in Provo, the Ford here in Provo, and then the Chevy here in Provo for providing us with all three trucks. Check out all their inventories in the description below. I'll see all of you in the next video.